Streaming for New Thought Tuesdays. It's Tuesday. Hey, Richard.
Hey, welcome. So we're going to talk about today the um, the chaos. How do you work your way through the chaos? So,
Well, what kind of chaos are you talking about? Because I
ah,
may perceive there's all kinds of chaos out there. What kind of chaos are you
well,
talking about, particularly?
there's so much chaos, in my personal life, in my business, and in life in general. But there's one thing that's overpowering everybody and taking over, and that's the political chaos that's going on in this country. So let's talk about that today.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that and the perspective behind it, that political chaos. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about political stuff today, all kinds of political stuff, and fighting and rallying and collecting and protesting and I have a sense that we're going to be talking about spirit all at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about that today.
We're going to approach it in a different way because when you think of fighting and protesting and, upheaval, you're out of the vortex. You're out of alignment with the divine. And so let's talk today about how do you get in alignment with the divine and what's going on around you? How do you stay centered? How do you stay spiritual in your spiritual practice? Sometimes I get out there and I want to fight.
And I want to talk about that. So let's not fight about it. No, I want to talk about that thing about, hey, I have a divine desire to experience and express a sense of peace in my life.
Yeah.
And when I look at the world around me and the world that I'm experiencing from my perspective, I am identifying chaos. I'm identifying judgment in myself of others. I have identified and assessed behavior that I judge as not good. And I want to make a difference. And just to get to the point quickly, beat them back. And I feel as though now I'm being hypothetical because this is not how Dean feels, but we're talking about those feeling points of I feel as though if I'm not out there raising hell, I'm not standing up for my country, or I'm not going to knock these people down that are doing terrible things to my country.
Right. Overcome them, push back, take power over them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, pick up the sword, you die by the sword. These are all things that sometimes I jump into that, and then I got to get back into spiritual alignment, which is, for me, Dean, is that what's happening here is an energy thing. There's good energy and there's not so good energy. And to me it's like what is it that I want to experience in my life, contrary to what's going on around me? I use my infinite filmmaker metaphor, and I say life is like a movie created by an infinite filmmaker, divine presence. It's everywhere present, in and as and through each and every one of us. That love intelligence of the universe is within us. So how do I tap that and have that overcome the anger that I want to lash out with? So how do I get back into center again? In the same sense is how do we as a country, and this is my goal with my coalition for independent you know for creators in the entertainment business, is that you've got this evil lurking over, like this not so good lurking over everything. And so what do we have to do as a country to overcome that, to switch it up from one of hatred to one of love, from one of fear to one of faith, from one of victimhood to one of co-creation in what we're creating in the life. And that's what I'd like to talk about today.
Well, here we go,
Here we go.
because I think one of the I am aware that one of the distinctions that people are perhaps not making is the distinction between action and anger. you can take action in any number of ways. Okay, there you have. There you have. I've got this child, this 2-year-old that is crossing the street in front of busy traffic. I can slap the kid to get him back onto the sidewalk. I can have fear, doubt, anger. I can pull that kid and make a dramatic scene, or that would be something I could do. We're using anger, upset, fear, doubt, worry to change something's direction, or I can go and I can direct this child very quickly to safety. I can use my wisdom, my belief in safety, my love for this child, my speed. If it's a physical kind of thing, there's all kinds of things I can do from a place of love. There's nothing we can do from a place of fight, but fight. If you're going to come from a place of fight, push against, that has a certain vibration. It has a certain appearance. And the more energy we put into the fight against, the more fight against we create in our lives.
Yeah.
So, whereas if folks are feeling a certain, now there are also plenty of folks out here who are like, thank God this is going on because this is going to be much better. Like, okay, that's that. I kind of envy them to a certain extent. But the sense of being clear that your indignation is never your highest suit. Your love is always your highest action. And I believe people are being called to action. I believe people are being called to intelligence, wisdom, strategic planning, standing for the truth of what you believe the Constitution is.
Yes.
And the idea that we have to get mad and get even is our free, that's a choice of free will, and you are more than welcome to go forth and multiply. But when you're talking about what we talk about here in New Thought Tuesdays, it is not what I stand for. I stand for love. I stand for truth. I stand for peace. And it can get really tricky to figure out how I'm going to do that.
Exactly.
Take action.
And using your analogy of the kid, walk him into safety. What if you don't get to him in time and somebody hits him who was maybe looking at their phone and not paying attention? And you get angry at this person for hitting this kid. And so at that instant, how do you react? How do you get back to the love and the understanding that, such as in politics, you're saying all of this is happening for a reason, for a purpose, and we're here to learn and to grow. And this is going to allow us to change things up that needed to be changed within the government, but in a way that needs to be done democratically, if I may say. So anyway, so you get angry at this guy for hitting this kid, and that anger comes up, and that's what's happening today. Is we're all getting run over by a steamroller, and we're angry, we're upset.
Well, I would then, if you're going to change the situation where the child has been hit by the car, let's slow this down. You're not angry at this person that hit this child with your car, first and foremost. Your heart is broken for the love of this child that you perceive, even if you believe that life is eternal, you have lost. So first and foremost, there is, it's slowing this down. What's going on here? Are we experiencing a sense of love for something that we are fearful that we have lost? Okay, there's the fear again. There's fear in there. If you are, now we're going to speed this up, and now we are focused. I've got this whole love that I'm lost, and now I'm blaming, blame, shame, and regret someone else for this activity. I'm blaming them and I'm going into anger. Now, in this particular case, and we're going to use this situation, I'm going to also slow this down and give myself time because I'm most probably going to react as opposed to respond. From a human standpoint, most probably the that loves this child is going to react.
Exactly.
Gnashing of teeth, sadness, and nobody would think twice about saying, "Oh, you're overreacting." So there's stuff going on that is reaction to a loss of a love or fear. And now I'm talking about the whole political thing.
Mm,
There's
exactly.
we're talking there is love. The thing that I'm keyed in on is the love of this country.
Of our freedom,
Yes.
the love of our abilities to be able to speak what we want to talk about,
Yes.
to
I
read
love
the
it.
books we want to read.
Yes.
Freedom. And so that freedom is being stripped away from us, and people are angry. And that was my point. You were saying something earlier about, do you want to, what was that? Graffiti your neighbor's garage because he upset you. We're talking about that.
Talking the
We're
other day,
planning
it's
for
like
this, but
I was using an analogy of okay, my neighbor, because
yeah.
we're in this country together. My neighbor has done something that I find disdainful, and am I going to go graffiti his garage door?
But you
Well,
also have to say this is hypothetical. So
oh, yes.
your neighbor, this if he's watching this. But we use this hypothetical. And so what were you saying? What was the using your spiritual principles and your spiritual truth? How did you get through that?
Well, the thing that makes it the most real for me is if, with all due respect to my beloved neighbors, that I make it real as if this is something that Dean, not somebody else, not somebody else needs to read that book, but Dean needs to experience this, read this book. Dean has this. Would Dean go over there and do this in protest? No, Dean, this is not part of the behavior that I would take to express consternation
Mm,
with an action. I I go back and I believe that I don't believe Mother Teresa ever said this, but it sounds good, and
paraphrase.
it's a paraphrase, but the idea of um, if don't invite me to a war protest, invite me to a peace rally.
Right.
They're both the same activity with a different intention. And for those of us who are railing against with anger and fear, I stand firm in the science of mind and new thought, ancient wisdom principles.
Yeah.
Say without question, we're not sticking our heads in the sand. We are standing firm in our faith to know that love and wisdom and unity and oneness are the answer.
Exactly. I prepared a little thing here. Speaking of that, what do
Okay.
we believe in the spiritual principles that that Ernest Holmes teaches? Uh, one of the things we do believe in is a universal, a power for good in the universe. That there's a power for good. There's also a power for evil, or a power for not so good, as you like to call it. But there's a power for good. And for me, the power for good is much stronger than the power for not so good or evil, because that is the love intelligence of the universe, the power of light and wisdom and knowledge and freedom. That's just the infinite expressing itself in and as and through each and every one of us. And it's there, but we can block it. So just like light, and I always use this analogy, light and darkness. The darkness has no power because you can shine a light on it and the darkness just disappears. So in the same sense, the way I'm looking at this is that we stand for the light, and my calling is to express that light
Yeah.
and to have other people, as I lift myself up, I lift everybody else up around me. So as I work these principles and teach these principles and apply these principles to my life, then I'm going to create the reality I want to experience in the future, not the reality that appears to be unfolding in front of me. Our thoughts become things, right, Dean? So our thoughts become things, and I think what you think about, you bring about, and what you focus on expands. What you don't focus on just disappears. It has no energy to hold it into place. The only thing that holds things into place is our mind. And what does Ernest Holmes say? Form is mind in action.
Mhm.
At the form of your life, everything you experience, that's just your mind. Now, what we have is race consciousness, the mind of everybody. So here's the thing. If our minds are individualized aspects of that one mind, and the majority of our minds are thinking or feeling or emotionally acting out on the dark side, then then that's what you're going to experience. So we need to lift more people up to the spiritual principles. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was understanding that fundamentally life is good, and no matter how many choices we make to fall into that appearance of not so good, that life itself is good.
Life itself is good. And
Yes.
as we are moving forward, I one of the things about the light and dark example is it tends to set up a paradigm of duality. And one of the things that we believe in New Thought, Ancient Wisdom is that there is no duality. There is only light.
Yes.
That the dark is the hiding of the light.
Yeah.
But this analogy of if it's dark and you shine light on it, I completely get it. And I think it's a particularly valuable analogy. That's why we use, and this comes a great deal from my Christian Science background, is to say the appearance of, that there is an appearance of X, Y, or Z, that it's not, it's not the real thing that we think it is, that it appears to be. So I want to go. I want to go back to this idea of that the peace. If you're just look at some of our examples. Oh, I don't. There was this guy a couple of thousand years ago. His worst day was in the money changers and the temple, but pretty much the guy was a really cool and peaceful dude. We've got Gandhi, we've got Martin Luther King Jr., we've got Nelson Mandela. These are all people who created great social change by not ignoring, but engaging.
Yes.
They were not ignoring injustice, they were engaging, they were taking actions from spiritual strength, not reactive anger. So the question that I come up with is, what if your greatest power isn't fighting, but it's in standing so deeply in your truth that you become unshakable? What happens if your greatest power isn't in fighting, but in standing so deeply in your truth,
Yes.
becomes unshakable? Don't yes, there's a lot of call to arms right now, and I'm using that metaphorically. So there is, yes, a fire alarm is a great thing. It calls attention to fire, but it doesn't put the fire out. There are ways to put out this particular fire in race consciousness. And even though there are a lot of folks in our country and on social media who are really, really all riled up, a lot of people in my experience, it doesn't mean that riled up is the predominant quality in the world. There's plenty of peace. There is always plenty of peace to call upon. Anger is a signal. It's not a strategy. We show our greatest power through knowing our own truth. but not through rage.
Yeah.
That's what we stand for on New Thought Tuesdays. Um, and don't graffiti your neighbor's garage door, please.
Graffiti in neighbor's garage door. Exactly.
Hey, Richard, is there anything else you wanted to share? Are you
Yeah,
feel,
there
are
is.
you feeling a little bit better though before you share that? How are you feeling about our conversation today?
Yeah.
I
There's
am.
so much more. There's so much more we could cover with this. Maybe we can talk about it again the next time, next Tuesday. But there's so much, so many principles that I believe in. The power of thought and how thoughts create your reality and how you can change your thoughts and change your life and how magical that can be.
Yeah.
That you can literally change your environment. You can influence people. You can influence uh, um, things. You can change things. I think it was the master 2000 years, over 2000 years ago, who said, if you say to this mountain, fall into the ocean, and you believe it, it will literally fall into the ocean. And I believe that. I take that to heart, that we can change everything around us, that everything is just an illusion and we're creating it by holding a consciousness for that, by holding that in our mind. I mean, there's stuff like that that we can really discuss. And how do you get to the place where you can, and I've done it so many times in my life, I can just think about something and it will appear out of nowhere. It's like magic. And there's a process to doing that. We talk about that every Tuesday, you know? Uh,
Yep.
and you know, anyways, let's talk about this at another time. I mean,
Well,
this
we're going to
is deep.
continue talking about it today in the inner circle with our beloved inner circle. And if you want to be a member of our inner circle and would like to join us, it is a membership conversation. We take these premises deeper, becoming more personal and very confidential in our discussion. And we'll go in and talk for the next till the top of the hour in the inner circle. If you want to find out more about that, please go to newthoughttuesdays.com and click on yes, I want to be reminded. And if you're interested in joining, you already know us, you're interested in joining the members inner circle, you can also go to that same website, newthoughttuesdays.com, and click on I'd like to be connected up. And Rich will connect up with you. You can talk about the possibility of joining our inner circle. But we're glad to be here today.
I have a thought I want to leave everybody with before we
Please.
go.
Okay.
It's about violence and aggression, which appears to be taking hold of people at this time. And so with violence and aggression, it's not going to create a lasting peace, because it's rooted in fear and separation, and you're never going to find true peace with that. And
Yeah.
the true change can occur when individuals raise their consciousness and embody love, the love intelligence of the universe, forgiveness,
Yep.
understanding,
Yep.
and to move into these principles of forgiveness and understanding. Forgive them, they know not what they do, I think was the master said in his final days, his final breath. Forgive them, they know not what they do. We have to learn to forgive those people that think differently than us and not hold it against them. So, forgiveness, compassion, and understanding and wisdom, these are the things that we have to share with people. And
Yep.
that's the only thing that's going to get us through all of this. And that's what's going to shift the consciousness of the planet. It's going to shift the environment that we live in. And
It's
so,
going to shift the appearance of the all this
yeah,
to allow us to see clearly into what is our next movement forward. And that's what I believe we all divinely desire. So off we go into the inner circle. We'll see
okay.
you guys later. Thank you so much for joining us.
Take care. Bye.